Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Arkie Kandola. Arkie is a Canadian-born actor and producer from Vancouver. Arkie first gained attention in 2013 with a vitamin water commercial alongside NBA legend Steve Nash. Since then, he's delivered standout performances in Fox's Prison Break, Freeform's Siren, CBS's The Twilight Zone, NBC's Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, the comedy Our Big Punjabi Family, and Universal's Easter Sunday with Joe Coy. This fall, Arkie will captivate audiences in two new series. Natasha Rothwell's How to Die Alone, premiering on Hulu on September 13th, and Hallmark's Chicken Sisters. As a producer and partner at BMA Films, Arkie, alongside Brandon J. McLaren and Max Toplin, are developing their first feature film called The Book, a Canadian-India co-production. Hello, Arkie. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hey, Olivia. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited because there's so many things we are going to dive into and so many aspects of your life we could talk about. But to start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Arkie Kandola?
Oh, success. What it means to me, honestly, I think is health, love, family and friends, purpose, and owning your own time combined into a beautiful bubble tea, I guess you can say. I
love that aspect of owning your own time as well, because as much as we all have passion and we're showing up in everything, I think sometimes we forget about the aspect of owning our time and what that really means. So can you dive into that a little bit more for me?
I think coming from a immigrant family, a Punjabi family whose family immigrated to England in '68 and then Canada in '82. I think I've watched my family, go through the hula hoops of life in trying to provide and, get to that place of, I guess you can say, success, or content. You know what I mean? Just a place of breathing, because immigrants have such a poverty mindset. You know what I mean? They can be millionaires and set off, but they'll still, think they're poor. So it's that place of understanding for me, owning my own time. I always wanted to jump into a career where I could do what I want and play when I wanted to, but when I wanted to work, it was going to be long lasting, meaning being on screen, we get to live forever in our work. So that was something that was a part of my success. So owning my own time is a part of being an actor, because, once a job is done, you are unemployed. So you don't know if you'll ever work again. So, owning your own time is a part of my mantra.
So as you go through your days and weeks, and I know it could look different from when you're in production with a show that you've been on, or as you are developing the film and doing your different that aspect, what does your day consist of in a general aspect to make sure that no matter how busy you're getting, you're owning that time and making sure the day looks the way you want it to look?
Wow, that's a great question, Olivia, because to be honest, every day is so different for me, because um, being in routine is a great part of my life. So in the morning I want to hit the gym, get that out of the way, you know what I mean? Come back, have some food, jump into a cafe, do some work from there. If I have any auditions that I got to prepare, any characters, I'll handle that. Um, I'm in love, so that takes, time as well, so like just trying to balance yourself and not, run out of steam. Because I think one thing we can do as a society is run out of juice, creatively, spiritually, mentally, physically. So just trying to make sure that you're feeding all parts of your life, that you don't kind of like, overpower yourself with one aspect.
And I completely agree. I think sometimes we just get in the routine of things, or we get so busy that sometimes we go, okay, this has to take priority or that has to take priority, which makes sense. But before you know it, your tasks have taken over you instead of you taking over and tackling those tasks, which can be daunting because by the end of the week, when your tasks have really burdened you, now you're drained in those other aspects like you mentioned. And I think that's something that we forget to go, okay, this is my time, this is my life, how do I want that to look? And I'm not saying either, like, we all have bosses at some point in our life, right? I have my own business now, so it's like nice because I am the boss, but there's still sometimes, right, you still have to answer to people to some extent even when you are a boss. And so you go through those patterns and you can't always go, okay, I'm just not doing this right now because that's overwhelming and it's taking away from something else I want to do. But just making sure it gets done in a way where you still have time for those other things. I love how you also mentioned you're in love. I am too. And like as that shift happens too, you have that newer relationship or you're building that foundation for long term. There are other shifts that happen in your life that takes priority over some friendships, or like we were talking about before this show, like I never thought I'd move to the cold and now I am. And it can make you do certain things and get out of your comfort zone, but it's being present in those moments that it's just as important as being present in other moments as well.
I agree.
So I want to now kind of transition into what you were talking about a moment ago in preparing for some of these different roles that you have had in the past or you might have in the future, as well as that aspect of not knowing what the next thing might be. So, as I mentioned in your introduction, you have been on a lot of different television shows and have had many amazing appearances. For you, what do you do to really prepare for an audition or once you get that role, a role while still being true to yourself?
You stumped me there, Olivia. Look at that. You achieved a success with that question. That's for sure. I think each character is so different. Some characters are actually written for you, so which is the biggest compliment to an artist, when someone is able to write something with you in mind. So I think preparation, because, at times as an actor, you can be having zero auditions in months, and then you can be doing 4 or 5, a week. So, it's such a balance of like understanding the muscle of it, I guess, because like some auditions will take 6 pages, and like that devotion of hitting every beat and moment of that page. So it's a real human experience. Um, it takes from you, So I think finding that particular balance of knowing how much time to invest into each character, knowing what the reward is going to be at the end of it, without losing yourself. You know what I mean? Like there's some characters that are so cool that I take them out into the universe and like I become them in public. Like yesterday we went to the dollar store and my girlfriend was walking in front of me and there was this like girl with her mother and sister and she was holding a puppy. And I was pretending to like, let them go by because my girlfriend thought I was behind them, and my girlfriend slammed the door. Like not slammed it, but let the door go on the girl with the puppy. And all of a sudden I was in character and I stopped and I'm like, excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me. You just slammed the door on this poor girl with a puppy. Are you not a human? And caused a big scene. And my girlfriend just jumps right into character. She's an actress as well. And she was like, Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see there. That wasn't my intention. I'm so sorry. And I look at him like, yes, thank you. Be a better human. And then I just ran down the aisle. You know what I mean? And like the dollar store, like employees are going, what is happening right now? And just like life, I feel like we get stuck in such a box of living that it just becomes mundane, and sometimes I just kind of like become a crazy lunatic just to like see what the reactions would be.
Think it would probably also be really helpful. And that's a perfect example, as well as someone who might need to push their own comfort zones sometimes, right? Or if they're not comfortable and doing those exercises or saying something you might not feel comfortable saying, but you envision yourself being a different character could also help. We were talking before we started recording about how I just had my first bear encounter. And trust me, my boyfriend is like, you did not handle that well. And I did not. But part of it, I was also going in my mind, okay, it's far away. You've seen bears on TV before, like trying to put myself in a different spot completely so that I could handle the situation well. And I've even done that, as you've said, like sometimes when I've been out, I've seen things and I'm like, okay, now I got to be in this mode so that I can approach the situation the way that I would want to approach it, where like the surroundings I'm in aren't the best. So I feel like acting is such a great way to also step out of your comfort zone or put yourself in a position to have the confidence to say certain things or teach other people as well.
Yeah, I really feel that the shock factor, especially in comedy, is what always gets me. And like, I'm not necessarily trying to be funny. I'm just trying to make myself laugh. You know what I mean? If I can entertain myself, I feel like there'll be a few eyes out there or souls out there that would kind of relate with that humor. So um, I always feel like the universe is a bunch of actors on sets and stages, and like they just don't know it, and they're not getting paid. You know what I mean? But like sometimes I walk through life, and I'm just like, man, this is like literally a set, and you're just like, these are all actors, and like they're all stars in their own movie. But majority of them are playing background. You know what I mean? Because they haven't been able to come to that grasp of they are the star. So I think that is kind of my mindset in life, that we are all just pretending, you know,
Mhm.
I'm
And
really
I
well.
think that is very true to certain aspects. You look at society now, and over years, especially dependent on cultural norms as well, parents say, and adults say, this is what you should do to be successful, right? You're going to go to college, you're going to get a job in these industries, and then you'll grow, you'll be happy. But that does not mean everyone's happy. So then you start to dim your own light as well. And you get to a point where you don't feel like you are that star in your story, and others feel that as well. So as you go through life and you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, how do you make sure that no matter what role you might be playing at that time or situation that is brand new to you, you're making sure that you are showing up with the confidence to be true to yourself, but also show up in the proper ways?
Bringing humbleness to the character is always a great start. Humility as a base of a character. Um, and also in my life, you know what I mean? I feel like I've been a part of some great projects and productions, but the humbleness of like my family still, my mom still prays that I become an actor. And I'm like, Mom, I'm an actor. Like, you know, I actually did a couple of Punjabi films just to kind of show my mom the crossover success. Cause like there's artists in the industry. There's an artist named Diljit Dosanjh who is like the biggest Indian artist. And I don't do Punjabi films because one, they're non-union, and two, um, they don't pay, right? Because they're non-union. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And my mom has like the biggest crush on Diljit. Don't tell my dad. And I did it for her, and she went to the theater and it was sold out and she watched me and she left the theater and she said, that was good. But your role was only like 3 minutes. And I was like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the humbleness of like, hey, there's always more to do.
And I want to kind of go back a little bit. You just brought up some of the different roles you've done and how you have done crossover, and how not every not all actors have unions, which is a big thing that also came up this past year in California with the actors union, and the Netflix aspect and all of that. So it is an ongoing discussion, even if there is a union, on what is, you know, pay range and all these different aspects safe for the actors, which I think is so important. But you first caught the public's eye in the vitamin water commercial along Steve Nash in 2013. Since then, like I said earlier, you've built an impressive career in major TV roles, TV shows, and different films. What were some of the pivotal moments or decisions early in your career that you feel like shaped your path and led you to where you are today in both acting and producing?
I think starting off in with a legendary commercial with Steve Nash and being a basketball fan. I was such a basketball fan, Olivia. You know what I mean? Like being a BC boy and Steve Nash being a BC boy and Seth Rogen being a local boy. Shout out to Seth Rogen. These were like my growing up inspirations. And I used to laugh so hard at Seth's jokes, and I used to want to dribble the tennis ball to high school, um, like Steve Nash. So when I was able to accomplish a commercial alongside Steve Nash, I kind of like was pinching myself that, hey man, this world is kind of smaller than you think, and like things are kind of possible. So when I came back and started, I didn't know what I was gonna do, but like everybody was like, hey, what's next? What's next? What's next? I just kind of like started a YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel kind of rolled into um, more work, more characters. So there was a character I played, Two Turbans, who was literally a spinoff of Two Chains. So I would just take Two Chains music and just like, I was like a Google translator and I would just translate it into Punjabi. And the shock and awe of what I was saying in Punjabi was like causing a stir in the community because like the culture wasn't ready for it 8 years ago. Now if you look at a Punjabi song, it's literally hip hop. You know what I mean? In Punjabi, I feel like we kind of like helped shape the culture. You know what I mean? Move it forward. But at the time, they weren't ready. So like when I was doing the characters, there was a shock and awe factor of it. Because I was inspired by the Saturday Night Lives, the Mad TVs, and like high production. So like if I was gonna get in front of the camera, I just don't want to like rant and rave and just do basic low production stuff. I was like, hey man, let's get a camera. I was fortunate enough to have a friend named Hines, um, who I was introduced to through Tory Lanez, who is a singer songwriter. Of course, he's incarcerated right now. Shout out to Tory. But he was able to like take my production and make it look amazing. So I think people were kind of like taken by the production value of my free videos. And like I was just literally calling up all my friends and handling characters and like getting different locations and cars and girls. We would obviously like just hire models. And it just kept growing. It kept growing. And then once the YouTube thing came to a plateau where I just didn't feel like I was being, I guess, compensated for the level of like fame. Because like, you have this level of fame, but you're broke. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. So I was able to shift it into, my agent, Layla Carrera, and she kind of saw that I was able to do this YouTube thing, and she was like, "Yo, you've been able to do this. Like, I can definitely work with you." So I think just kind of building it from the YouTube thing and then having the acting thing be such a new foundation for me, where it was just like self-taught. Because when I came into it, nobody wanted to be a YouTuber. Like YouTubers are now a cool thing, but back then, even in the acting world, nobody respected a YouTuber. They'd be like, "Oh, you do YouTube?" Like, yeah, like I went to 7 years film school in New York. Like, get out of here, child. Like the respect of like how you got to come in and like grind just like everybody else is what keeps you motivated. To just bring it each time. You know.
And I love how you brought up there as well the payment aspect of YouTube. And you can be very successful in one area, but not make the money that others perceive you would be making. Like it would be a no brainer. And I see that a lot within the podcasting space and people going to me, I do a lot of podcast consulting and they hear, oh, Olivia's show's the top 5%, the only one in all 7 continents, 35 countries. So you're rolling in money. And I go, we got to take a step back because if you're about to go into this because people watch what you're doing, you're going to make all this money off of iTunes and Spotify or YouTube. Let's really have the conversation of what that looks like. And I've gone into conferences and universities, and that is the first notion that everyone has. Well, if you're a YouTube star or really doing well in these areas, especially within podcasting, because it has become so well known, so many people listen to it in that, in podcasting, it is becoming a new form of media that so many people are listening to. They go, you must be making so much money off of that. You're set. And I'm like, that is not how it works. So many people think you if you get a certain amount of views, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I go, and I'd love to hear your perspective of this, but I'll kind of go from the podcasting side more of you could get thousands of views on your podcast episode. Let's say this week that episode drops, you get 5,000 views. You're lucky to make $5, $10. Like that would be crazy if you made $5, $10. And I always use the analogy like in 3 months, I might make $10 from all aspects of what people have clicked. And people are clicking it, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the payout from it because platforms like iTunes, Spotify, YouTube have seen the growth of them and are going, okay, now we're going to put more barriers up.
Well, yeah, not just the barriers. I don't think people understand that you live in Alaska, so you got to spend a lot of money on thermals. You know what I mean? So, like, we need the podcast community to be donating more to you, Olivia. That's the only way you can be achieving success is if you're not worried about buying thermals. Come on, y'all.
Well, and that's the thing. Here you got to buy a lot of thermals because even in the summer it's cold, and if you're not, you're 90 pounds like me, soaking wet.
Yeah, you're not prepared.
That wind can knock you over sometimes, right?
You need a turban, Olivia. That's it. Just roll up. Be like, yo, I'm Punjabi now. I don't know about you guys, but like yeah.
We actually went fishing the other day, and we live the farthest place in Juneau to really get to is like 30 minutes. So I also laugh in the aspect of here, everyone's like, that's such a far drive. And I'm like, basically you get out of your neighborhood and you're on one road until you get off. Like, there's different turns. I'm like, it's a straight line. And it's like 10, 12 minutes. Like, no, go to a suburb in the main 48 states or a city, and that same route could take you 35 to 40 minutes, like easily. And so there's that aspect. So we're like 5 minutes from the beach and the ocean. So we've gone fishing, and it was colder yesterday, and I'm getting ready. And my boyfriend's just laughing because I put on thermals and then 2 layers of pants. And then I put on 6 different layers of shirts on top of, including 2 of them yesterday were 2 thermals. So I had 2 thermal shirts on, and then, another shirt, and then a sweatshirt, and then your North Face, and then you put on what's called a wader. So if you go in the water and you're standing in the water, you don't get wet. And then I put a jacket, a windbreaker on top of it. And he's like, "Are you gonna be warm? Like, I think you're gonna be warm enough." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like 55 degrees. Like, I was warm the day before because I had the layers, but the wind by the water's hitting my face." So I was like, "Well, I could put this mask on that came with one of my thermals that is in the winter, if you're skiing or something, you could fully put it over your face and the only
Yeah.
thing open."
Bak,
And he's
I was gonna say the wrong thing. I was gonna say the dessert, the Lebanese dessert, baklava. No, baklava. I can't say it. Thank God my girlfriend's not here. She'd make fun of me. She'd be like, "Oh God, please, can we take it from
yeah,
the?"
but I was like ready to wear that. And he's like, "What are you doing? It's not that cold." And I'm like,
At least
yeah.
you know, Olivia. Next time you're jumping on a flight and you're just gonna take a backpack and no luggage, you can literally put on your whole wardrobe and like jump in a seat and like still have space. So like,
Oh,
shut
that's a plus. I will say, especially being smaller, I used to do Habitat for Humanity as well. And like if we were out there in the winter, I'd be like it looked like I gained another 30 pounds just because of how many layers of clothes I'd be wearing. Like I have pictures of it and I just look like a ball. Like I'm
everybody
like
everybody in Alaska is going, I think Olivia's pregnant. They're like, no, she's just wearing 6 layers of clothes.
yeah, my boyfriend was like yesterday, once we left, he's like, "Oh, we should go to the store." And I'm like, I literally look like the clothes are wearing me. Like, we cannot go shopping like this. I'm like, we gotta stop home first. But it is one of those things that when we look at, like you said, just the space and what people perceive in different areas, it is very different. Whether it is from platforms like YouTube and what that growth can really look like from the back end, right? Monetarily, or when you're in a new environment and you're acclimating to the new environment, what you feel comfortable with. Like here yesterday, when we were fishing, there were people in shorts fishing. And I'm like, "You're true Alaskan, because like that,
Yeah.
I can't do that."
How's the pizza in Alaska?
There is actually, it's really funny you say this. Because in Juneau, Alaska, one of the top, New York Times rated it the number one pizza place in the US is here. And
Hey,
yeah, right? Shocked. And one of the top 50 restaurants, there's 2 really infamous chefs that are here. A lot of chefs will come here
Italian?
from he is Italian, and he's been nominated. I'm not sure if he's won the James Beard Award 6 times, but he's been nominated 6 times.
Witness protection program chefs going to Alaska just got called out, right? Like these guys are just top-notch chefs. They're like, I'm gonna go somewhere where they'll never find me. Number 1 pizza spot in the world is in Alaska. They're like, damn it!
Yeah, like my friends were like, "Wait, why is it in Alaska and not New York? Like New York's so so well known for pizza." And I'm just like, "I don't know, but I
So have
can't
you
wait to
had it
try
yet?
it." I'm not. You need a reservation to get in, and they've been booked. It is my birthday coming up, so we are planning to go for my birthday. So we'll see how it
You need the
is.
publicist. You need the publicist to call and make that the meeting. You know what I mean? Be like, hey man, Olivia want to come in for her birthday.
Yes.
So
Well,
yeah,
and it's real like pizza and Italian food. And here there isn't really any place that serves Italian food. And I'm like, I just love pasta. So
but
can we
if you need me to make the call, I'll definitely make the call. I'll be like, hey, hi there. My name's Jonathan. I'm calling on behalf of Olivia Atkin of the Atkin family. If you don't know, they're the ones that invented the diet, the Atkins diet. Yes, correct. She wants to come in for her birthday. Is that possible? Oh, what? You're gonna shut the place down for her? Yeah. There you go. We just did it. There you go.
The power. We're putting it out into the universe.
Even just mentally, we just did it. So that was a great experience. How was the pizza? Was it good?
Really good. Like, I wish I could fly some out to you.
Well, I think I'm going to be making a trip out that way to the northern part of BC. So maybe if I end up in Alaska, I definitely will check out that pizza spot.
Well, and if you have from Seattle to Alaska, it's only like 2 hours to
No
Juneau,
way.
Alaska. Yeah. So also another fun fact, and I love how this whole interview is taking a turn here. I love the unexpectedness, but you can't get from Juneau, like there isn't really direct flights. Everything goes from Juneau to Seattle and then it disperses from Seattle. So it is a really short flight. It's about 2 hours, which is awesome. Just get in the air and go. What kind of sucks
Only an
is
hour and a half away from Seattle, so that's not too bad. And I have family that literally own motels and gas stations, so I can park my car anywhere there and just jump on a flight.
There you go. Problem solved on that aspect, right?
With a full tank of gas when I come back.
But like that's the awesome thing. The kind of inconvenience part is you have to have a layover. So you're someone who doesn't like layovers.
No, time is valuable. Yeah, time is definitely valuable. And especially when you're traveling, I think getting there is always just a big part of it. You know what I mean? Like when you want to start a vacation, you just want to get there. So like when I've never been to Mexico, but I've been looking at flights and like those layover flights, I'm just like, no, please. 17 hours later, you're there. Like you don't even you need a vacation from the flight, not just life. Like, you know what I mean? Like you need to double the vacation. Doesn't make sense to me.
No, I am the person that avoids doing layovers at all costs. Like I just want to get there. And there's certain times you don't have a choice. And I'm just like, it's a long flight. And now you have to stop somewhere. Like, I have to go to Italy and that's like a 9-hour flight. Now, luckily I'm going to the lower 48 first. I'm going to be leaving from Philadelphia to go. But luckily that leg is direct. But I've gone from Philly to Ireland and you have to stop unless you take Aer Lingus. And so your 9-hour flight is like you said, like a 17-hour day because you can't do a 45-minute layover. You're never going to make it. Even now with it used to be like, okay, all the flights will be on time. Now it's like, expect all the flights to be an hour and a half delayed. Building that buffer into your own planning.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how just like air travel works. You know what I mean? And like just planning, like travel planning is such a big business and some people just don't know. You know what I mean? They'll just book a flight not knowing that there's 3 layovers. Some poor grandma is like, having heat stroke just from trying to catch each flight. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, it's tricky out there, man. So like, yeah, stop taking layover flights, man. Save the $50 and like, just don't buy 3 coffees.
Because coffee is really, I don't drink coffee, but I see what some of my friends spend on coffee, and I'm like, okay, you could have a decent meal with that. Like, come on, do a fun activity with that.
It adds up. I'm fortunate enough to like, not be as a fiend. But I love me an Americano. So like I just went to my favorite cafe and bought the beans. And then bought a machine. It's the Indian in me, you know what I mean? The Punjabi in me, our parents taught us well, you know what I mean? Like we go straight to the source. Like if we like something and there's a middleman in between, we deal with the middleman the first time. Then we meet the wholesaler or the direct guy. And then right after that, it's like, hey, you want to go eat some butter chicken? Every time.
And I think there's such a skill in that people don't think about as well, is figuring out processes. And really looking at, okay, what does it take to make this, right? I can never copy Coca-Cola is like my version of coffee. I can never copy Coca-Cola. I'm not going to try. Like, I'm just going to buy the soda. However, there are certain dishes I like or certain activities, and I'm like, okay, I'm paying someone to, take us on this tour, and I'll do the tour once. And I'm like, okay, now every time I go with someone, we could go on our own. Like, now I've learned the path, I've learned this. I'm really looking at all those processes in our everyday lives and going, okay, what is that return I'm getting? And can I do this? And sometimes we don't realize, like, it doesn't take a lot of steps to do something. You just need the right materials and you can have the same outcome. And so I think it's really interesting when, yeah, there's a convenience level, but it's so out of norm for people to just go, okay, what does it really take to do this? Can I do it on my own instead of paying someone to do it? And then in real time, you've also learned a new skill. So, I mean, there's that. But for you, one thing I want to go back to, because I know we're getting close on time, is your two new shows that are coming out. Um, and one is premiering on Hulu on September 13th, How to Die Alone. And the other is on Hallmark, my mom's favorite station. So she was really excited when she heard about the show. Chicken Sisters. For you, what is it like having two shows coming out relatively around the same time that I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you had to play both characters around the same time and be able to transition.
No. So I was fortunate enough to be casted in How to Die Alone last year. We wrapped shooting last year. So it was kind of nice because our big Punjabi family was the first um big role after the pandemic. And I was fortunate enough to be working during the pandemic. A lot of people like, well, I 2.5 years, obviously, I didn't work because um, just the industry. But right when the industry started back up, the ball was swinging. Like there was already productions in. So, like in our big Punjabi family being a Punjabi cast, How Did I Alone being an all urban black cast comedy, and then Chicken Sisters being on Hallmark, letting it speak for itself. Like I just think that the industry is at a place where now we understand that the Asian consumption of content is optimal. India and China are consuming the most content, and we need to be seen in the stories. You know what I mean? Like, representation matters. So, like, it's nice to see that there's stories out there. And How to Die Alone with Natasha Rothwell, who is an amazing number one and showrunner and producer and friend and boss. Like she's just um such an inspiration to watch and be a part of that production. Everybody in there is a star. Natasha has a vision with that, and I'm so excited. I think the trailer has like 6 million views in 5 days, and like the love is just overwhelming, with obviously it being with White Lotus for her coming out. So like just watching a star um, in that dynamic of wearing so many capes just levels you up. And I think that's a classroom for any artist. You know what I mean? When you're working and you're just a student, it's like being in a classroom. So like just to watch, observe, and be a part of such a beautiful story of Natasha, who plays Melissa Mel, um, go through her journey as a airport worker who is just down on luck, and a near death experience wakes her up to want to go find her love and find her reason why of life. And I play Sean Gale, which is a Punjabi character, amazing that, that is now uh, the norm, of a Punjabi person or an Indian character in productions. Gets to be a friend and a provider of love and a path of humanity and just connection. in the story, and like, obviously have my own story within the story, which is amazing. And September 13th on Hulu, like, everybody please tune in and just be ready to laugh and cry and everything in between.
And I think it's such a, and I'm trying to search for the word in my head right now, but such a power move in its own to bring individuals who are really in tune with themselves and can bring that natural feeling and really invite you in to the story as a cast. And like you said, there isn't one star. Everyone's a star in that cast. And really going as a producer, as an actor, even on a team, we are a team, and it doesn't matter each person's stardom that's staying next to me. We're all here, we're all together. And I think you also hear so many times of like, there's one main star, everyone else is stars, but not at the same level. So when you bring that and everyone is looked at as like, oh no, like we're going to make sure everyone's aware that we're all the stars, and that comes from all levels. It's like anything else. If you have a team of individuals and you separate one from everyone else, is like, that's the high performer. You're all just okay. It doesn't build anyone else up. And you've already dispersed the team from within. And for you, what has it been like playing characters that represent you and being able to help build up that step for someone else who is coming into the industry and wants roles that really represent them, but also from the other facet of individuals who are watching certain TV shows going, he looks like me. And if he could do it, I could do it. And that really does represent our culture and our community.
Yeah, because you know what? It's an amazing thing of like being Punjabi and being Indian, but like being British as well. So I have a British passport as well. So like having all of these DNA connections to all these places, um, I never looked at an Indian artist to be like, he looks like me. Well, actually, no. Let me correct myself. Waris Ahluwalia in Inside Men, Spike Lee directed with Denzel Washington and Clive Owen. I was fortunate enough to work with Clive Owen in The Confirmation. So, like, just like these things that I was watching as a child, and like he worked with Waris Ahluwalia, and then I got to work with Clive Owen, and like just understanding that I did it because I saw characters like Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, Zach Galifianakis, Chris Farley, these people that were, not your number ones, they, in an ideal Hollywood world, they're not your leads, they're always the best friend or like the comedic relief. But when I was able to see them be ones, I knew that as a Punjabi, there's a huge community behind me that hasn't been able to cross over to the creative side now. Our parents were able to make all the sacrifices in, giving up their dreams, so that we could have a chance at ours, and obviously I'm not speaking for everybody out there. Obviously there's a lot of successful, um, first generation immigrants here that, came over with education, which is a total different story. I mean, the immigrants that are literally coming and taking the jobs that you don't want to do and then building it into, a place of success. I think watching that is all the motivation a kid like me can have. Because when kids come up to me and be like, hey man, I saw you in Woody Woodpecker, or I saw you in Flora and Ulysses, and like these Disney productions and Universal productions that are, going to be played forever, um, my job's done, Olivia. I think that's achieving success for me. So I think as long as I can keep being a student and a sponge and working alongside great, great producers and directors, and just being a student in this industry, I think, the sky's the limit.
And I want to end that with one last question for you. If you had a chance to create a hybrid character that blends elements from all your previous roles and different aspects of your life today and the things that you have learned, what traits or experiences would this character have, and what kind of story would you want to tell with them?
Um, can you explain the question more? This is such
Yeah.
a
So if you could create any character you
okay.
wanted from scratch, like right
Yeah.
now, I'm really gonna put you on the spot. And
Okay.
it blended different aspects of characters that you previously played in
Okay.
different shows or in things you produced, and aspects of you and who you are and what your joys are in life. What would that character represent, and what kind of story would you want them to tell?
Well, I think it's time for a Punjabi lead. It's time for that story to be told, and it being a rom com or a stoner classic. I think the nation and the culture is ready for it. I think we need risk takers in film. I feel like everybody likes to stay in the pocket, and the people that actually like to break through are the ones that literally just, love a story and want to tell that story. No cheating the storyline. You know what I mean? So like I think it's just finding the journey within the journey is such a mental game, and success, what is it? Like Olivia, it's such a you got such a great title with that. Like it's a never ending place. Like you really don't ever achieve success. It's like eating a meal. You know what I mean? You're gonna get
I
hungry again.
Oh, yes, for sure. And listen, as the days go on, I'm definitely the snacker and long-term eater. So, I mean, I might not sit down and finish my meal, but in like 45 minutes, I'm gonna want the Kit Kat after, or a next part. But that is really also, and you just touched upon this, why the show and my company is exactly achieving success, because it is okay for it to ever change. It is a something that isn't a one and done. You check it off the list and now you've embraced it. But also, like you've mentioned, you might come storming the gates and go, I'm ready for this, but the community might not be ready for it. And so you have to wait for the community to be in the same spot you are to really go, okay, that's an innovative idea. And now we can move forward. Look at the example. I'll take it back to a movie reference, Avatar. They worked on Avatar, that movie that I'm blanking on the full name, but where they were underwater for many, many years because they had the idea and they had how they wanted it to work, but technology wasn't up to par with it. And these different elements weren't ready for that yet. And when they really were, then they moved forward with production. But we can take that in all aspects of our life. You could be a trailblazer and think of this really innovative idea. But again, if your community, the people you're trying to serve, aren't ready for that, then
You
you're
just
not going to
bypass
move.
them. You just bypass them.
Mhm.
Bypass them, and you keep it moving, and then they'll catch up regardless. The world is in need of joy, and I feel like light workers need to be in front of the camera and behind the camera, and like, just spreading their purpose. And I feel like that's part of my journey is I don't have a social media platform where I'm like a slave to the app. I kind of live my life. I love food, I love golf, I love basketball, I love, you know what I mean? And I think, again, coming back to full circle of owning your own time in that process of being able to divide it into your pie however you want and bite into it. Um, yeah. So, like, just love it, man. Love this process because, like, health can change any minute. Tomorrow can be not right now. And I understand that. we've seen a lot of people come and we've seen a lot of people go. And like, I think that is a reality of the success, is just being tapped in and understanding that we're all temporary. And but these projects aren't, How to Die Alone, September 13th, Chicken Sisters, September this fall. I can't say the date. I was about to slip there. Hallmark was about
we
to
almost caught you today.
Hallmark was about to call up the publicist and get me demoted there. But yeah, no, Chicken Sisters. Before I wrap up, Skylar Fisk, Genevieve Engelson, Leah Thompson, the legend, Wendy Malick, just legends, beautiful women, legends. You know what I mean? And just watching over 100 years of experience on film work. So the story is about a Southern family. It's in a small town of Merrimack, and there's one family that has two rival chicken fried restaurants, and they settled the feud on a show called Kitchen Clash, where I play a cameraman named Gordo. So it's a beautiful story. There's a lot of laughter. I think, the rollout for Hallmark's platform, like their streaming service. So I think they're really coming with a different take on it. And I think it's going to be a refreshing and surprising story for the Hallmark lovers. So like, if you love Hallmark, I think you're going to love this show. So tune in this fall, next month, and catch me wherever you catch me.
And my mom has already told me she saw a preview and cannot wait. She is a big Hallmark person. So you go into our household, Hallmark Christmas or the regular Hallmark station, most of the time is playing. So we will all be watching you on that screen, because Hallmark is a big part of, you can count on it to be playing and let you feel good and have that story. We also joke that like she's watched Hallmark so many times, and we all could tell her how the show's gonna end or the movie's gonna end, because we've all seen it. But it is that channel that produces such great stories that really make you feel loved and that community vibe. So we will all be excited to be watching you on that, as well as me and my boyfriend will be tuning in on September 13th. We've already saw the trailer for that, for How to Die Alone, and we will be tuning in as one of the many people to watch that. Thank you, Arkie, for all of your insight today.
Love. Thank you, Olivia, for having me. And stay warm out in Alaska.
Thank you. And it's been a true pleasure. And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation is own your own time. I love how Arkie says that it's a theme through everything he has done, and really embracing the time we have, making that impact, showing up with passion, but also going, where I stand today, where do I want to be allocating my time, as well as you are the star of your own story and your own movie. So remember that no matter how dim your light might get at certain points, because life is taking certain tolls, or you don't feel worthy of something, or you don't know why something is happening to you, you are the star, and it is building you up, right? It is that suspenseful moment.
That's just the scene. That's just the scene right now. You know what I mean? The scene will pivot. It's just, breathe into it. You know what I mean? It'll pass.
As well as ask yourself, what is the process? Arkie brought that up. And it is something that sometimes we all have to ask ourselves, is it something we want to be paying for? Is it something you can do? And once you understand how the process works, you can dive in, you can find that additional process, you can hone skills and develop skills you didn't know. And finally, find the journey within the journey. And always remember, there's always a journey within the journey that you're going on. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Arkie Kandola. Thank you for listening, and have a successful day.